step.
Please take a picture. Please focus on the picture to get her face out there so that anybody...
Working on 3 hours sleep and a couple of crackers, he protects his fondest hopes, battles his worst fears, and sometimes loses.
I don't have any video of her. To be honest with you, Melissa didn't like to be videoed. She used to holler at me every time I did. I'd give anything to have her holler at me right now.
I'd give anything, he says, to have her holler at me right now. It's a rare lapse. Mostly, there is a desperate monotony to his mission.
I know she made a 911 call at 9:02:07.
It's all that David Vincent knows about what happened to his eldest daughter. It's enough to hang hope on.
When we went back to the cell phone provider, the only thing that we had that they could tell us is that there was a 911 call made from that cell phone at 9:02, which was some 17 minutes after the jet had piled into the thing.
9:02:07. He tells it to everyone he talks to. He clings to it for dear life, because of course it is.
I need to know where she was when she made that call, because that will tell me whether she was downstairs just getting off the path and maybe in a void someplace downstairs, or whether I have to understand that she was upstairs on 102 and have to wonder whether she was able to get out or not able to get out.
By evening, David Vincent has pretty much worn out the corner of 26th and Lexington, and his cell battery is fading, so he moves on. Craig Spitzer is CEO of Alliance. 7 employees, everyone thought to be in the building that morning, are missing. He cannot, will not, bring himself to believe they're gone.
I'm not going to say that to you right now.
You can't?
No, and I won't. And I won't for myself, and I won't for the people in there.
In there is a room full of people who have loved someone too long to give up so soon, and what's left after hope is unthinkable. It is why they agreed to expose this rawest of human times to the glare of the camera lens, because maybe somebody out there has information about Roland, something that will keep his brother moving.
I go to sleep with hope, I wake up with none.
And perhaps somebody saw Eric in a stairwell racing to safety.
We don't know. Maybe he's out there someplace, got hit on the head, and he doesn't know who he is. You know, maybe he's unconscious and he didn't have any identification on him.
And as it turns out, nobody can say for sure that Melissa was in the office for that 8:30 meeting.
I have to tell you, Craig, that's the best news that I could possibly hear, because what you're telling me is you can't confirm Melissa in that office space, and that's what I had to know. Yeah. That's what keeps me going.
So if you know anything about Melissa, call her father. He'd give anything to hear her holler at him again. Candy Crowley, CNN, New York.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Paula Zahn reporting from New York City today. You're looking at a shot that has become all too familiar, the New York skyline obscured by that smoke and steam that continues to come out of what is known as Ground Zero. As you can see, thousands of rescue workers still working around the clock, racing against time. The mayor of the city says they will continue to view this as a rescue operation until all hope is gone. The numbers, though, even the mayor concedes, are not promising. The number of missing has gone up since yesterday. Now believed 5,000 people are believed to be missing. There is an attempt to get some sense of normal life back here. New York's 3 area airports are open today. They're running far fewer flights than normal. A spokesman for the Port Authority says Newark International, which is one of the airports from which a plane was hijacked last week, is expected to handle about 700 flights today. That's 75% of the airport's normal volume. Kennedy and LaGuardia are scheduled to run about half the flights they normally schedule, and right now the mayor will give us even more updated information. Let's dip in on his news
conference. At least get a few of these things out. First of all, during the course of today and then starting tomorrow, and then over 2 or 3 days, we're going to be transitioning the main work of the Family Center to the pier right above us, which is right off 57th Street. And later on, when it's ready, and it's just about ready, they'll arrange for you to tour it and take a look at it so that you can see the incredible work that's been done to make it into a family center that can accommodate the numbers that we're dealing with, which are now considerably larger than the Armory can handle. The Armory will remain open. We'll be running shuttle buses from it because people have gotten used to it. And then at some point when the transition is made, the Armory will go back to its normal use or whatever other use we're going to have for it. And then the family center here will take over all operations. But the transition will start tomorrow, and it will take as long as it takes to transition everything to the family center that'll be here. And the Armory will stay open for as long as people are still going there. I went to see the family center last night. First time I looked at it was the day before, and in 24 hours, they have turned it into a state-of-the-art facility. And the only way that happened, really, is because of tremendous volunteer work. The Bovis Corporation oversaw the reconstruction, but we had tremendous help from Accenture, from AOL Time Warner, and from lots of other people. And the other advantage of the family center is that we're utilizing about half the space there. So if, in fact, the numbers are even larger than we anticipate, we can expand by twice as much and have in one place all of the facilities that we're going to need to deal with the number of people who are going to be registered or involved in looking for their loved ones and trying to get information about them. The numbers now are 180 confirmed dead, 115 of whom have been identified, and 65 unidentified. And the number of missing is 5,097 that we have now registered as a missing person. The reports that were on the news late last night and this morning of knocking at the site, regrettably, are not true. There were no such reports. The recovery effort continues, and the hope is still there that we might be able to save some lives. But the reality is that in the last several days we haven't found anyone. And the reports of there being activity of some kind, although there have been several of those, I imagine because there's so much of a feeling and so much of a sense that we want that to be true, those reports are not true. But in any event, we're going to continue to search for people and look for people at the same time realizing that the losses here are staggering. There'll be a prayer service next week on September 23rd at 3 p.m. and the locations and all of the details of it will be put out later. But that's the period of time. And I've asked Governor Pataki and I have asked the religious leaders of our city, who I met with on Thursday, the religious leaders of our city, and I asked Mayors Koch and Dinkins to be part of a group to help make recommendations as to the best way to do that prayer service. So it'll be September 23rd at 3 p.m. And as the days go by, we'll fill in all of the details, but it'll be an appropriate occasion for everyone to come together and pray in a large and unified way. Today is also Sunday, which I was very thankful for when I woke up this morning. It's wonderful to get to Sunday and have a beautiful Sunday. And it is an appropriate day for people to reflect on what happened last week. And people are doing it in churches all over the city. There'll be a Mass at St. Patrick's this evening at 5 o'clock. But life goes on, and the life of the city is going on. And the prediction that I made on the first day is proving to be true. The city is stronger than it was last week at this time. We've had the most horrible attack in the history of the city, and we have emerged a stronger city, more united with ourselves, more united with the rest of America, with tremendous support and assistance. We're getting tremendous support and assistance from the state, from the federal government, and from people all over the world, and we're giving them tremendous support and assistance by the spirit that we have, the way in which we rebuilt the emergency center virtually in 3 days, and it's bigger and more effective than probably ever before, with the attitude and direction of the fire commissioner and the fire department, and having to sustain the worst losses ever, but at the same time, in a short while, promoting people who will step into the shoes of people who are missing and have the fire department emerge from that even stronger. I'm going to a wedding today, which means a great deal to me, because it's a wedding of the sister of firefighter Garumba, who died 3 weeks ago in the line of duty, Diane Garumba, and police officer Michael Ferrito. In the course of the last year, Diane lost her grandfather, her father, and her brother, and therefore had no one to walk her down the aisle. And Mrs. Garumba asked me to do that several weeks ago at the wake. So at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I'm going to take time out to go to a wedding. And I have thought very often in the last couple of days about Mrs. Garumba's advice at her son's wake when I found out that she had lost her father, her husband, and her son in the course of 12 months. I asked her how she can bear it, and she said because she feels the pain of it, she allows the pain to happen, but then she focuses on the good things that are left in life, like her daughter's wedding. And that's what you have to do, she said. You have to focus on the good things in life, and you have to go and participate in the good things. And one of the good things is her daughter's wedding. So I've thought about that quite a bit this week. And then at 5 o'clock this afternoon, there's a Mass at St. Patrick's. So the life of the city goes on, and I encourage people to go about their lives. One of the best things they can do to show how strong we are and how terrorists can't cower us is not to be coward. Go ahead and go about the everyday activities. Go to church if you go to church on Sunday. If you go to a park and play with your children, do that. If you like to go out and spend money, I would encourage that. It's always a good thing. And I encourage people from all over the country who want to help. I have a great way of helping. Come here and spend money. Go to a restaurant, a play. You might actually have a better chance of getting tickets to the producers now if you want to come here and see it. But the life of the city goes on, and I think this Sunday symbolizes that.
Well, you've just heard the mayor of New York City delivering what is, by all definitions, an emotional message to New Yorkers and the rest of the world, saying that life goes on, and one of the best ways to prove that is for all of us to go back to our normal lives and not be cowed by what happened to us last week. He proclaimed that the city is stronger today than it was a week ago at this time, and that because of this strength, that New Yorkers are united with each other in a way they never had been before, and perhaps New Yorkers are united with Americans all over the country in a way they were never united before. The mayor updating some statistics for us today, confirming there are more than 5,000 people missing, 880 people confirmed dead, 115 of those have been identified. The mayor also shot down reports of any possible contact made between victims trapped in the rubble and emergency rescue workers. He said he wishes those were true. They are not, but made it very clear that this is still being called a rescue operation, and they will continue to work that way until all hope has faded. He told Bill, I'm sure you heard this poignant story about walking a young woman down the aisle today who lost her grandfather, father, and brother in a period of several weeks. He was asked by this young woman's mother if he would accompany her down the aisle today, and sort of said that this is a sign of joy and that we should all allow ourselves to concentrate perhaps on what is good in our life.
Yeah.
Bill?
Also echoing the words of Frank DeFord, who just spoke 15 minutes ago on CNN about trying to encourage people to go back to their lives as normal or as close to normal as they can. The mayor even suggesting people should go out and spend money if indeed that is what makes them happy. You know, while we were listening to the mayor, Paula, a number of people down here, officials, are passing out these paper gas masks here to a number of members of the media. There's probably about 100 of us gathered here. In addition to that, as I look around up the street here on Greenwich Street, I see several hundred civilians too. They're getting them as well. The word we get from the state police here is that a generator may be blown sometime very soon, just about 2 blocks from here inside the former World Trade Center. If that generator blows, they say indeed some toxic fumes may be released into the air. Again, that's the word we're getting from the state police here. The other thing I want to point out as we watch that is if our viewers see that steam and smoke still rising from the debris here, a lot of that smoke, there's some small fires that still pop up from time to time. They have to contend with those, but the steam you see, we are being told that that steel that burned on Tuesday exceeded 1,000 degrees at some points, and again, when the water goes on those at this point, they have a lot of trapped heat, and that steam comes up from the rubble here. We saw several hundred firefighters also march in about 20 minutes ago, Paula. It's possible they may go to attend this situation here with the generator, but we'll watch that. But again, we're told at this time to put these on, and we will follow their orders. Paula, back to you.
Well, you better put that on right now, Bill, and if you have to do your next report with it on, we will understand. Right now, we're going to check in with William Gavin, who is at one time was the deputy director of the FBI. He has been involved in a number of terrorist investigations, and he's going to lend us some of his skill here this morning. Welcome. Good to have you with us, sir.
Good morning.
What did you learn from the World Trade Center bombing in '93 that might assist investigators in their investigation today?
I think that the one thing that we learned was that you must pay close attention in the investigative phase of this case. You have to pay close attention to every single detail, every piece of evidence, every statement that's made, everything that somebody might have heard, every suspicion they might have had. All of these things are woven together to help us solve this case, and that's probably one of the primary things. The other thing is the resiliency of the people of not only of New York City, but of the people of the United States. We will go on, but we will resolve this matter.
I think your thoughts are seconded by many folks across America. Let's get back to the investigation for a moment. Based on what you're hearing that the FBI has confirmed, do you believe, as President Bush told us yesterday, that indeed Osama bin Laden is the prime suspect?
Well, I think there's no doubt about that. That's something that I've believed since 9/11, that he was in fact the prime subject in this horrific act that was committed against the humanity, not just the American people, but against humanity. I don't think there's any doubt. The sights, the sounds, the smells, his ability to weave together this intricate web of treachery all points to Osama bin Laden.
And you were talking about the need to pay such close attention to every single detail, to every single statement that has been made. When you think back to your first World Trade Center investigation, how were you able to trace the men you did and their followers to the bombing?
Well, it started out in terms of that piece of metal that had the serial number stamped in it from the Ryder rental truck. That piece of metal that was found. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Gavin. I know there have been a number of interruptions. I'm really sorry to interrupt your flow of thought.
Okay.
You carry on with how your investigation led you to Mr. Youssef.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. The problem was there when we first found the identification number stamped in the rail of the Ryder truck, tracing it from the manufacturer to the first buyer to the renter, all the way back to Jersey City to Mohammed Salameh, who had rented that truck. That triggered a huge investigative effort determining who Mohammed Salameh was, and quite frankly, he was very helpful in this case because he showed up in Jersey City to pick up a deposit for that truck that he had reported stolen, knowing full well that he had filled it full of explosives and tried to blow up the World Trade Center.
I wanted you to provide some perspective on a debate that's raging now and then will continue to rage in the days to come, and that is the debate about how much leverage the United States really has if they can prove that Osama bin Laden did this to in any way target him. Senator Schumer was a guest earlier this morning, and he said he believes that some of the restrictions that law enforcement agencies had to operate with might be relaxed. Is that what it will take to stop this man, if in fact he is the prime suspect?
Well, there's a couple of things here. I believe, number one, the country must go on to do what they have to do in order to catch him. But in order to stop him, in order to stop future terrorist acts by whomever that may want to accomplish them, we do have to take those handcuffs off just a bit in order to help us get what needs to be done. I say us meaning law enforcement. I keep reverting back to the past. But in order to get what we need done, we have to take those handcuffs off and give law enforcement and intelligence agencies a bit more flexibility in getting the job done.
Gavin, thank you again for your participation today. I apologize for the number of interruptions, but as you well know, we are constantly being given new information, and we want to get it on the air as soon as possible. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
All right, now we're going to go back to the Washington Bureau again, where Bob Novak is joining us with Novak, Hunt, and Shields, and the rest of the team. Good morning, Bob. How are you this morning?
Thank you, Paula. I'm Robert Novak. Al Hunt and I will question one of the Defense Secretary's top advisors.
He is the chairman of the U.S. Defense Policy Board, Richard Pearl. Mr. Pearl, thank you for being with us. Secretary of State Colin Powell has said that we are going to assemble the widest possible coalition, including many Arab states, in this war against terrorism. Is that doable and a good idea?
Yes, I think it's doable. Let me say at the outset that I'm speaking only for myself. The Policy Board has not met on this subject, so anything you hear from me today is my own view. The key thing is to assemble the widest effective coalition. And sometimes there is a difference between breadth and depth. What we want in a coalition are those countries that are truly beside us in combating international terrorism. And to try to bring in those who are in fact part of the problem rather than the solution in order to widen it, I think would be a great mistake. We need people who are solid and reliable.
So who should we not bring in? Should we not bring in Iran? Should we not bring in Pakistan? Tell me who we should not bring in.
It would be crazy to bring in Iran, which is involved in terrorism, or Iraq, which is involved in terrorism. And frankly, I think it's unwise to attempt to bring in Yasser Arafat, who has not only a history as a terrorist, but has been letting go the very sorts of suicide bombers and others that are behind these international acts of terror.
You mentioned Iraq. Vice President Cheney said on Meet the Press that our information is Iraq was not behind this latest incident. But should a primary goal of the war on terrorism be to topple Saddam Hussein?
Yes, I think so. There's no question Saddam has been involved in acts of terror. He gives support to terrorists and harbors them. They have safe passage in his country. They're permitted to operate there freely as long as he is around. With his desire for vengeance, he will be supporting international terrorism. And we need to take this fight to the countries that harbor terrorists. Chasing individual terrorists is not the way to solve this problem.
So Mr. Pearl, you're proposing that we go after...
All right, hate to have to do this to you, gentlemen, but I got to break into your show to bring you some statements by Attorney General John Ashcroft, who now joins us from Camp David. I'm actually looking at this shot, and I don't think he has appeared at that table yet, but I'm told he has walked into the room and will be making a statement shortly. There's the microphone he will be addressing. A little hubbub of activity preceding the Attorney General's arrival. Let's listen.
It's a resonant podium. During this past week, we've been dealing with the impact of an assault on the United States and civilized people of the world that has come from a pervasive and substantial terrorist network. It's a matter of the compound nature of the tragedy to understand that nations from Argentina to Zimbabwe, from A to Z, have lost hundreds of citizens in this tragedy. It illustrates for us that terrorism is the enemy of human civilization. Our effort is to develop all the information we can about terrorism, the terrorists and the terrorist networks that have inflicted this injury on the United States and this assault upon the people of the world, and to do everything we can to disrupt them and to put an end to their capacity. They have declared war on the United States with an act of war, and the President has very carefully noted that we consider it a responsibility to do everything within our power to those interests that threaten the United States and its interests to end their capacity to do so. Obviously, among the organizations that have that capacity and have previously been involved in assaults against the United States and its interests is the network of Osama bin Laden and his network. It is important to note that in recent months and years, a variety of terrorist organizations have cooperated in networking together, and that terrorism is an enemy to civilized people. We will be doing everything we can. We have launched the largest single investigation in the history of the United States. We have 4,000 active FBI agents pursuing a wide variety of tips and understandings and questions. We'll get to the bottom of this circumstance, but we'll also develop an understanding of how we can prevent further episodes, assaults on America and our people. It's clear to me that we need to upgrade and strengthen a number of laws in the United States. The Congress has very appropriately expressed its thorough willingness to provide for the President the resources that are appropriate in terms of finances to conduct this effort, and I believe they will cooperate to provide the enhanced law enforcement resources by way of authority. Let me indicate a few of the matters that I believe will be in a package that we will carry to the Hill, and ask members of the Congress to assist us in this effort by enacting authorizing legislation. I might add that I expect to be involved with members of the Congress on the Hill this afternoon in discussing these issues. In terms of upgrading and strengthening our capacity, let me say that we need to make sure that we have assigned a high priority to the fight against terrorism. There are areas of our laws and procedures which give us better tools against organized crime, against illegal gambling, for example, than we have against terrorists. We need to make sure that we provide the maximum capacity against terrorists in the United States. We need, for instance, to make it, to elevate the penalties for those who would harbor or assist terrorists to at least the same level as the penalties for those who would harbor or assist those who have been involved in espionage. And there are areas in which we need to just expand our capacity to surveil those involved in terrorist activities. Telephone surveillance has been limited historically to specific telephones rather than to people, so that if the telephone number changes out of its home area, or if a person ceases using one telephone and begins to use another telephone, we have to go back to court to get new authority. Now, most Americans, we all understand that you can buy disposable telephones now, use them for a limited period of time, and throw them away. And it simply doesn't make sense to have the